Let's bring you this discussion now. The rise in the cost of food continues to be the main reason behind the high cost of living in South Africa. At least that's according to Statistics South Africa, which released its income and expenditure survey just a short while ago. It highlights that households headed by women have the least money to spare in the country. Our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, joins us now live with more of those details. Xolani, good afternoon to you. And in fact, you are in conversation with the Statistician-General.
Good afternoon, Michelle. The Statistician-General Risenga Maluleke has spent the past 2 hours painstakingly going through the findings of the income and expenditure survey, a very important survey that looks not only at income but expenditure, finding some very sobering results about the state of poverty and inequality and exactly who is wealthy and where they are and who is poor and where they are. And he joins us now to give us some highlights. Mr. Maluleke, thank you very much for your time as always. 68% of households, some 68% of households spending their money on food, among other findings that have come from this income and expenditure survey. Give us the top lines of the other findings compared to the findings from the previous survey done years ago.
Xolani, let me thank you and thank the viewers, but let me start off particularly with the issue of the state of poverty in our country. That the income and expenditure survey is a basis through which we will compute headline poverty once we bring in individuals. So at this stage, we're talking at household level in terms of only income and expenditure and where the people get their money as in the form of income and where people spend their money in the form of expenditure. Having said that, we are saying that income way back 2006 was sitting at about 75,000. That's about 74,000 rands and 500 and something rands. As of now, it's sitting at about 204,600 and something rands. So it has increased at household level at average, on average. Having said that, the two provinces that are leading the most in terms of above average in both expenditure and income both your Western Cape and Gauteng. The Western Cape actually shows a big gap in terms of income, where when you compare it with Limpopo, the Eastern Cape and the Northwest, you can see that it dwarfs them quite seriously. Having said that, when you look at average income at household level, you can see in terms of population group that the white population group is sitting far in the excess of about 600,000. Yet when you look at the black Africans, for example, you're sitting at about 124,000 rands. But when you go to the issues of expenditure, the gap between expenditure and income for the white population group is a lot more wider. They spend about 540,000 rands, whereas the black African group is spending about 108,000 rands. So there's a narrower gap between the amount that black Africans remain with for the Indian and Asian population group, as well as for the colored population group. There is a gap, but much more higher than black Africans. But for the white population group, it's a lot more higher, meaning that they have more disposable income, they have more income which they can direct to other areas like investments. So when you then look at the issue of where they get their money, particularly on the sort of income, the male-headed households are getting more their money from work compared to female-headed households which get less from work but more from other sources in the form of pensions and grants, as well as other sources like stokvels. So you can see that women-headed households are actually far less in terms of being at an advantage to their male-headed households. When you look at the Indian Asian population group as well as the white population group, there is an element that shows that from financial benefits in the form of investments, they do make money compared to what you see in the form of your colored population and black African population group.
The findings on the female-headed households actually speak to the other findings when it comes to the general household survey, the other surveys and data and information that you have collected and share with us over the years. It actually paints a picture that says even when it comes to employment, black African females are the most vulnerable group in our country.
Well, let me start off by saying that data will never misrepresent the story. So whatever you see in society is what the official statistics are confirming. Having said that, let us look at sources of income. One is that someone needs to have had education to be able to get a job. But you have what we call structural unemployment in our country, meaning that the kind of skills you have, as well as the job opportunities you have, do not match. But there's a lot of mismatch in relation to skills that you get, particularly for women. Let us look at Census 2022, for example. You see more women in administrative and other social worker related work, whereas men are more in technical work as well as engineering related. And I'm talking about volumes. When you come to employment, men have more opportunities to take up employment. And if you look at the spatial arrangement of where our people take up work in South Africa, men are at an advantage. Then when you split it into population group, vis-a-vis your male-female, you can see that black African women are much more vulnerable to labor markets with the highest unemployment rate. Then when you look at female-headed households, where from our general household survey, where they happen to have stayed hungry overnight, you see that it's more for female-headed households than it is for male-headed households. Now, when you come to this income and expenditure, by the way, in about June, July, we are going to come back with headline poverty numbers. Now, when you look at this, it shows that women are still vulnerable, even in relation to income as well as expenditure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maluleke. Very, very sobering data and information that is collected and shared by Statistics South Africa. That survey taking 12 months across the country, where they spend time tracing what the households are spending their money on. And it shows that while government intervention through social reform and social grants has had a very important impact, there is a long way to go in terms of leveling the playing field and bringing those who are most vulnerable and poor up. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but some very sobering data from Statistics South Africa. Back to you, Michelle, in studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Xolani Mbanjwa, thanks very much indeed. And as the Statistician General says, education is the key. It's just